Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Friday, y'all. Happy Friday. I'm going to play a little song for you. Y'all, you know me. I'm Dr. Triffy. I'm a licensed psychologist in Atlanta, Georgia, but I'm from the lovely island of Dominica in the Caribbean. Not to be confused with the Dominican Republic. We love them, but they are a completely different country. Tonight, I'm doing something awesome, fabulous. It's the first time I'm doing it, and I have the best person to start this experience, this journey with. We're talking diaspora stories, we're talking immigrant experiences, and we're talking to people from Dominica. So I thought I'd give you a taste of the music of Dominica from her neck of the woods. So listen and share the live so people know we're starting. Okay, share the live.
Special greetings to Marion and Wesley in Dominica.
Share the live and come in.
We shape part, you go more Camela. Since morning you go make a message. You pick the day, I bad for hungry. Since morning it should have feed already. Mama, when me go, the man on me day. Mama, when me go, the man on me day. Mama, when me go, the man on me day. Mama, how you mean to tell me lay?
Share the live, share the live.
What kind of woman you go make Camela? You just a make people watch you rant up. But when you make police come here to me, because me know me go broke your backbone.
You go broke your backbone.
Mama, when me go, the man on me day. Mama, when me go, the man on me day. Mama, when me go, the man on me day. Mama, how you mean to tell me lay?
Hi, Franklin. Hi, Yvonne. Come in. Share the live, yo. Share the live. This is Black Affairs.
What kind of woman you go make Camela? You just a make people watch you rant up. But when you make police come here for me, because me know me go broke your backbone. Mama, when me go, the man on me day. Mama, when me go, the man on me day. Mama, when me go, the man on me day. Mama, how you mean to tell me lay?
Yes.
Oh, Camela, Camela, go by my side. Camela, oh, mission. Camela, sit back outside. Oh, Camela. Oh, Camela.
Oh my goodness. Listening to the song. I want to keep listening to the song, but duty calls. Yes, Jackie. Yes, Yvonne. Yes, Franklin. Yes, Rosamond. Rosamond says this is a Cocoy song. Y'all, yeah, we got to talk about all of that. What is Cocoy, right? I have the most fantastic, awesome, fabulous Amma Thomas with us. She's going to tell you a little bit more about herself once I introduce her. And we are going to talk some diaspora stories. Okay? We are going to talk some diaspora stories. So I'm going to add Amma. There she is. Welcome.
Hey everybody, good evening. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Amma, for joining me tonight. Y'all, can you tell from my smile, from the fact that I found some music, yeah, to just sweeten my little soul so we can start having conversation about
Mm-hmm.
it. This is our first diaspora stories, Dominica diaspora stories. I want to do these at least once a month so we can talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, about the diaspora experience. So, Amma, welcome.
Thank you.
I want you to introduce yourself to the people who are listening tonight. They're coming in and they're sharing the live because they know they're going to hear some good stuff.
Well, I'm Amma Halima. The villagers know me as Halima. Amma, I use it's my middle name. It's my mom's favorite name for me. And I am from the village of Marigot, and I live here in New Jersey. And I'm a practicing nurse and very active with agriculture and using food as your medicine.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Y'all, you should check out Emma's page. You will understand what she's talking about when she says using food as medicine, because I promise you, you can feel the love flying off the pages from the pictures that you post, Amma. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. So
And
Amma
the
is
and the members of the group as well.
yes, yes, yes. So Amma says that she's from Marigot. Yeah. And the song you listen to is by the group Black Affairs. And you heard him give a nice shout out to the people of Marigot and Wesley because he's from up that side, right? Is he from Woodford Hill, Wesley, or Marigot?
I
Do you know?
think he's from Wesley, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
But one of our very popular bands from, I would say, the 70s, 80s. They were very big then, and they're classic Dominican music, cadence. And what I love about that song is that it is not in our traditional Creole, which is, a lot of people are accustomed to hearing a lot of Creole, which is a Dominican language, yeah, from African words, French, some Spanish words, some English that our ancestors used, created actually to communicate. I say they created the language so they could save their lives. So this language though is called Kokoi. And Amma, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about Kokoi because
So, Kokoi basically is a mix of African languages and English. So they broke down um, you know, so for example, like a child, you call the child your pickney. In
yes,
Africa, they call them pickins. So some of it traveled with us. Like in Marigot, I heard them saying fear, fear. Like if someone interferes with you, it's like a kind of action to suggest like warding off bad spirits. Fear, get away from me.
yes,
Well, I was listening to a Nigerian movie, and the lady was using fear within the appropriate context. And I was like, what? Wait, that's where we get fear from.
that's
And
awesome.
my mom, Margaret James, is a very renowned Kokoi poet. At one time, they had a show on DBS
Yes,
about Kokoi. I think she co-hosted it with another guy from Wesley. And it's very funny she did this Kokoi show because she never spoke Kokoi at home.
wow, 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 wow.
So my grandfather used to forbid it because he figured out once you were going to high school, you should
Yes,
not talk Kokoi and you should speak proper English. And he was big on, talking properly. But I mean, I love cocoa so much that I mix it up even now as I get older with my English. I feel more relaxed talking it, especially when I'm in the village. I mean, what else can you
mhm,
do? You have to blend in.
yes,
So, I mean, if you want a sweet joke, just like how you're telling it in Creole, it's
yes.
sweeter in Kokoi, you know, and
That's
it,
so
it
beautiful.
distinguishes us as a people too in from Marigot.
Absolutely. So Dominica really has four languages. A small island of no more than what, 289.9 square miles. We don't, it might be a little more, it might be a little less by now, of about 70,000 people with four languages. English, which is the standard, and then the French Creole, the Khoikhoi that you talk about, and Kalinago language. The Kalinago are our native peoples, our first peoples. So that is so beautiful. You know that word fia? In
Mm-hmm.
Creole, we say fia malewe,
Mm-hmm.
fia malewe as well. So we kept that African word, that fia,
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
mean get out of here. No, stay away from
Yeah.
me, you evil
Mm-hmm.
spirit or you evil person.
Mm-hmm.
So don't let anybody say fia to you. What did you do to earn that? Well, I love that you went back home to our roots, to our source, to Africa, because, we're talking about the diaspora experience. So there we are. There, all people they got somehow transported, and we know all the details, to the little island of Dominica, and you create your home, your island. But life being life, people are going to keep moving. They're going to keep migrating and leaving wherever you're born. Many people will leave, emigrate. So we are talking about those of us who made that choice to leave Dominica. And I am very interested in your diaspora story. So, how did that happen? Why did you leave Marigot? And
So I left Margaret when I was 15. So I was done with high school and I was at home hanging out, and I think I was missing maybe one subject to go to college at the time. And so I was going to redo some subjects in the following January, so I could go to college. Because
mhm,
my mom had two choices. She actually wanted to re register me at grammar school. And I said, absolutely not. I'm not going back to high school because I was so young, and or redo one or two classes to get into sixth form college.
mhm,
So I moved to Roseau because I got a job that November. My mom said, just, you have to put out some applications. You have to do something for yourself. So Aid Bank hired me and I started to work there at
at how
15.
old? Wow.
15, yes, 15. They didn't, I remember the first time Miss Harris, um, she sent me to Social Security to get my Social Security card. And
Yes.
when I came back with the card, she started screaming. She ran into the accountant's office and she's like, she's 15. Can we even legally employ her?
Wow.
So I ended up leaving home. That was my first experience leaving home.
Hmm.
And of course, when you leave home like that, is another auntie house you going into.
Yes.
So I went to live with my auntie in Bath Estates
Hmm.
in the RBC section. So I left home very young. And
Yeah.
from there, working at Aid Bank, all the other young ladies were either taking classes in the night, doing the UE Diet program, and I thought I should do something too.
Yeah.
At the same time, I had a grandmother in Canada who was very anxious for me to join them.
Hmm.
And we were making arrangements, but the same year I graduated, she passed on.
Mm.
So my aunt came down to Dominica shortly after and she said, this was mommy's wish. She wanted you to come, you need to come.
Hmm.
So the following year, I think in January of 1992, I
Hmm.
wasn't even 17 yet, I left for Canada. And I think the funny joke is she had teased me before she left. She said, you're going to go into cornfields. That's where we live, in cornfields. And I really stuck that into my head. Now, at the time, I went to Edmonton, Alberta. I didn't just go to Toronto where it's like
Oh,
nice weather.
You're not
I'm
in
wearing
Brampton.
minus 40 with wind chill factors of minus 50. So I went to Alberta, and I remember as the plane was landing, all I could see was farms
Yes.
in the dead of winter, January of 1992. And I started crying. I'm like, really? I'm really going to walk those 2 miles to school like she talked about?
Yes.
But finally, when she picked me up and we drove, it was 40 kilometers away from the city, and I saw houses. I was like, ah, I breathed a sigh of relief. So I actually left to go to college at that age,
Wow.
16 going on 17.
Yes.
So I went up there and I did Alberta College at first. It's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like a community college
Community.
back then.
Mm-hmm.
I think they merged with another community college now.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went on to the University of Alberta, where
Yes.
I was doing a major in the sciences, but with secondary education. Yes.
Focus. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know how you just sweetly slid over that 40-kilometer ride? What were you thinking in the car in that 40-kilometer ride?
I was so scared because I landed and the airport literally it was in the prairies. It's
Yes.
out there and you're not seeing a house.
Yes.
And we're driving in and I thought, oh my goodness, all these books of Little House on the Prairie, because at that time we were naive. We
Yes.
had no, I mean, everything we knew was in a book or on the
On the tip.
the TV, which had just reached to Marigot
Barely.
2 years. 2 years. So I mean, I'm like, yeah, I'm really Laura Ingle on going. I'm on the Little House of Prairie right here. I just don't have a buggy, but we're going into town. And
Yes.
I was so ridiculously scared and cold because in Alberta, no matter how warm your car is,
Mm-hmm.
you feel that chill from the outside. And, but my aunt was, my aunt was a very good host. So we got in and we went home and I saw the house. I was so relieved that we actually lived in a housing community.
Yes. Do you remember the first meal? Do you remember the first thing you ate?
No, no,
Or the
I
most
don't, because
impactful?
we always ate Caribbean food. Thankfully, no matter where I went, I think the first weird thing I had was chicken gizzards. Yeah, I had never had that before because when we used to kill chickens at home, my grandmother always used to say, "Bring the gizzy for me," and so the gizzard was always hers. And I think my aunt's husband was Jamaican. So
Yes.
then I got introduced. Actually, I didn't know how to cook when I left home. I
Mm-hmm.
really didn't. Um, and he taught me how to cook and all of that good stuff.
Yes.
Hmm.
Okay, so there you are. You're 17 and you start college.
Yes, I had to take two buses downtown. I left home. I had to take two buses to go downtown, and I would leave home at 5:45. And in Canada, I don't remember what time the sun rises, but somewhere around 9 o'clock,
Mm.
9:30 in Alberta, and the
Mm-hmm.
sun sets by 3:30. So we get
Yes.
only about 6 hours of darkness, of light. Sorry,
Right. Mm-hmm.
because we were only about 3 hours south of the 60th parallel.
Wow.
So if you go 3 hours north, it would be 24 hours of light and 24 hours of darkness in winter. Hmm. Hmm.
Wow. So,
Yeah.
okay. So, again, you know how you just slid over. Yeah, I took two buses and two trains. I'm asking, I want to hear more because I want to hear about your internal experience as you're taking these two buses and two trains. Did somebody go with you before? Like, did you know
Mhm.
the route? Okay. Yeah.
So my cousin Paula, She came with me a couple days. I think she took me, she's really a methodical person. So
Yes.
she took me for a while until she was sure that I knew how to take the bus by
Mm-hmm.
myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we had to walk out, and in Alberta they give every day, they tell you what they call the wind chill factor, which
Yes.
is how fast your flesh is going to freeze,
Yes.
and it's literally seconds.
Yes.
So the layering was serious, and I remember the first time I went out, I don't know if my aunt missed my shoes. Boy, when I came in, my aunt was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you went with those shoes." I was frozen. And we literally had to wear like heavy duty boots made for that area. It's not like even living in, even here, I still
Mm-hmm.
wear flip flops in winter. I still never got used to wearing mitts and too much hats in winter here because Canada did it for me. I'm always hot still in
Yeah.
winter.
Okay, so you
And
talked about layering. You talked about
so
layering. What does
yes,
that
so
mean?
so layering, so we had like a thin tee like this on, then you would have your regular sweater,
Mm-hmm.
then you would have um no, we had a vest. I think
Mm-hmm.
you had a vest, then a thin top, and then you had a turtleneck,
Yes.
and then the sweater.
Yes.
And then below you had, I used to wear stockings. So stockings,
Mm-hmm.
then my thermal underwear, then
Yes.
a pair of jeans. And then for the foot, you, I think they said not to double socks.
Double
I'm
sock.
not sure how they did, but I think my aunt gave me a really good pair of boots. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think they were like sealskin boots or something. Those boots were like I wore them like every day.
Yes.
And then on the head, you would wear a thin thing, maybe like this, and then
Mm-hmm.
a thin scarf that you wear, kind of like how a Muslim puts on a hijab. And
Yes.
then you would wear, then you would put on, no, you put on your hat, then the thin scarf,
Mm-hmm.
then the thick scarf to come like right here. And then the mitts, you had thin mitts, and then what I call boxer gloves. And then you had a jacket that literally looked like a blanket, and
Yes.
your boots came all the way up, and your your jacket went all the way down to meet it, and you just had no way of leaving. Only thing that was ever exposed for me was my eyes.
What was that like for the girl who was used to 75 degrees upwards, right? 75 degrees Fahrenheit every day, 80 degrees every day. You're used to your little vest and your little shorts and flip flops. What is that like?
So at first it was very overwhelming, but the thing about Dominica, I get terrible migraine headaches in the summer. So when
Ah,
I went to Canada, I stopped getting the headaches because of the cold.
mm-hmm,
And there's something about Edmonton, specifically Alberta. We have almost zero humidity in the air. So
mm-hmm,
although it's minus 40, unless the wind is blowing, you're not going to feel the heavy effects of it. Like sometimes here in New Jersey, it might be 40 something degree with so much humidity that you feel it's like a damp, chilling cold.
mm-hmm.
But I ended up really loving the winter. Like I love winter. I like winter.
Yes. You like winter. I like winter
And
when I'm dressed for winter.
yes, I love to dress in winter. I have more winter clothes than summer clothes.
Oh, really?
Yes, I love winter. Mhm.
Okay, so you're there. So now you're at college. Yeah.
Mhm.
And what was that? What was that whole experience like? You know?
So the college was, hmm, how should I describe it? It was almost like an extension of Dominica
Mm,
because the Canadian education system is very strict,
mhm,
and the subjects and everything are like they're structured in the way that we would structure our courses at
mm,
home.
mhm,
And so the rigor was intense.
mhm,
And I was learning, so I had never taken chemistry in my life.
Yes.
I had never taken biology. I took integrated science,
Mm-hmm.
and I had taken basic math. And then all of a sudden, I'm doing maybe some level of math I had never seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And then having to pick up that was, it was very intense. um, I ended up really liking the sciences. I never knew I had a knack for it because
Mm-hmm.
coming from Dominica, they kind of like put you in a box.
Mm-hmm.
Because I like to argue and talk so much, my teachers
Yes.
like, oh, you'll make a good lawyer.
Yes.
And they put me in the arts. They thought,
Yes.
hey, you will do good with more liberal arts type, but I actually preferred science and I'm like a science junkie.
Yeah.
So as soon as I did my first chemistry class, it made so much sense. Everything made sense in the sciences. But what I really liked about that school was there were a lot of immigrants from that school. So we kind of started looking at each other. I remember my first friend I made, I watched her for like maybe a month, and I was like, I have to say hi because I am here all alone by
Yeah.
myself
Yeah.
with absolutely no friends. And that is
Yes.
terrifying because you're in a college environment. It's not like high school where you're going to go in and maybe somebody's going to say, yo, what's up? You're in college.
Yeah.
So I watched this girl, and she used to have like really funky tights, and she used to dress in a really funky way. Her name was Rachel. Rachel, if you are my first friend. And I just worked up the guts to go up and say hello to her, and
Mm-hmm.
we became friends. She was from Kenya. Then I
Yeah.
met another girl called Sam Sam. And then I met another girl. I was just going through them, the other day. Another one from her. She was born in Canada. Parents were from Trinidad. And then I
Mm-hmm.
started meeting Jamaicans. And then soon all the Black people just started congregating together in the cafeteria in a little
Yes.
spot. We
Yes.
created our own little clique. We met each other. We just kept coming and going in between classes to that spot.
Yes.
And we hung out and we had fun. And I mean, besides the rigor of the classroom work,
Mm-hmm.
that part of the experience was fine because that was not, I mean, by the time I went to the university, that was like a whole other um,
Yes.
experience. But the
So you
college
found
part,
a home base. So you found a group. You found a group you
hmm
could belong to. So you
hmm
didn't feel so isolated or alone
no,
no,
no.
anymore.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
that was good. And home was always good because like my aunt liked to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And like it was like my aunt was always looking for like a second child. So my cousin is like very quiet and stuff. So my aunt and I on the weekends, oh my gosh, we went for long walks, and um she loved to go house hunting. So we had a lot in common, my aunt and I. Even to this day, like we have a lot in common.
Kind of a soul sister, a soul
Yes,
aunt.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
She's my dad's only sister, so I mean, I only had that one aunt.
Yeah. So,
Hmm.
how did you now, fast forward and you're in RN right now?
Yes.
Yes. Where are you right now? Where are you today?
So I'm an RN. So from there,
Mm-hmm.
from the college, I
Mm-hmm.
moved on to the university. Now,
Mm-hmm.
talk about rigor. That was rigor. And
Mm-hmm.
again, was so naive. I was going to a college that was ranked in the top 100 in the world, and I had no
Didn't know.
no clue. It
Didn't know.
was not until I was living in the US and I saw things being ranked here. I'm like,
Yes.
I would like to rank the University of Alberta. I think
Yes.
it's like ranked 100 and something now in the world.
Wow.
At the time, it was ranked higher than even Dartmouth and Ivy League
Yes.
schools, and I was
Yes.
like, oh, I
Yes. Yes.
went there. So from there, I had some trauma, because my aunt, at the time was also an RN, and there was a lot of layoffs for nurses in Canada. So they found jobs in Texas.
Mm.
And at the same time, she was just switching houses. We moved from a smaller house to a much bigger house.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to go to Texas. At the same time, my cousin, who was like my buddy, like was moving to Toronto because she graduated. So now I was going to be alone
Alone
in the house. And
in
she
the
kept
big house.
asking, in a big house, a 5 bedroom house by myself.
Yes. Yes.
That was terrifying. And I remember I think that was where my real misery started, was when I had to stay by myself. Because before that, I had just transitioned basically from being with everybody like a family to now being by myself.
And having to figure many things out.
And
Yeah.
having to figure out things that I never had to figure out before. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
although they showed me this is what to do, this is how to do the bills, and I
Mm-hmm.
still was unable to cope. I had a very bad time then. And because of how the buses and everything was set up, when
Mm-hmm.
my aunt was there, the closest bus to us, we would have to walk into that neighborhood. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes she would pick me up, whoever was home would pick me up from the next neighborhood. Well,
Mm-hmm.
when nobody was there, I was walking home by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on when my aunt, I mean, the thoughts in your head in winter where the snowbanks are taller than you,
Yes.
um, I remember one time I was laughing at your story, not laughing because I almost checked myself into a nunnery. I'm like, I'm 18 at that time. I said, I've never done anything. I'm a good girl. My grandmother is a Catholic. I make my first communion. I think I would make a good nun. I can't do this by myself anymore.
Yes.
And I was distraught about it. And then I called my uncle Willie, and
Mm-hmm.
he lived in Ohio, and he's like, "When do you want to leave?" And I said,
Oh,
"I want to leave like tomorrow."
yes,
And
yes,
so I just packed up. I was having like financial difficulties along with
yes,
all of that, coping
yes,
on my own, and he just sent a ticket for me, and I was on the plane the next day
yes.
to
Wow.
Ohio. Yeah, because it was a really, really rough time for me. I was way too young to be on my own.
Yes. I'm hearing, so here's a theme, right? Support, social support. At
Mm-hmm.
the first college, meeting up with that group that felt like a home base, felt so
Mm-hmm.
safe. I can see the smile on your face as you were
Mm-hmm.
talking about it, and having the support of your auntie for so
Mm-hmm.
long. But then life happens, and then that gets interrupted, and so having to be alone and
Mm-hmm.
the pressure
Mm-hmm.
from not having consistent support because it can't happen because circumstances have changed.
Mm-hmm.
And then for that to now again switch into like, oh, thank you, uncle, who rushes in,
Oh
and come.
yes, that's my savior, uncle. And
Oh,
from then I went to Ohio, but I was even further depressed because now I'm not in school. Thank God I
mm-hmm,
had my US visa that I could have been there for the time.
mm-hmm,
And so what's towards the end of the time, like maybe after 3 months or so, he saw that I was getting really depressed. And he asked me what I wanted to do. And I said, I want to go home. Because
mm-hmm,
at the time they were trying to switch my visa to student status.
yeah,
I was not interested at that time.
mm-hmm,
And he said, okay. So he bought a ticket and he sent me home. So this is in middle of my university studies.
right,
I go to Dominica, and I was happy to be back, but I was
mm-hmm,
very also upset and disappointed because I had given up my job at Aid Bank.
mm-hmm,
I remember before I left, everybody begged me to stay. There was a lady that was in charge of all the schools. She called me. She's like, listen, we pay for school for all Aid Bank employees. You can do the UE Diet program. You can go
mm-hmm,
on to do the UE program. But my family had already set me on that
right,
trajectory, and
yeah,
I never questioned it. Back then you did as you were told, like,
right,
you're like, oh, my grandmother said I had to go, so I
mm-hmm,
went.
yes,
And while I was in Dominica, I got pregnant.
mm-hmm,
So when I got pregnant, I was like, I don't think I'm going to make it here.
here
So
as in Dominica.
yes, I
Mm-hmm,
was doing well financially enough, but it was a pressure because of I was a temporary teacher, so my pay would take forever to come in. So I was all again at the mercy of my mom or my
Yes.
cousin that I was rooming with
Yes.
and in town. And I remember I just felt like I can't cope like this. So the good thing is I had an aunt in New Jersey, and I called her and I said, I want to come to the US, but nobody knew I was pregnant. Huh? So I got up to New Jersey and I gave myself, I had 14 days to get a job to go back. If I didn't get a job, I would go back because at least I had a teaching job.
Yes.
And the night before I was supposed to leave to go back, someone called me to give me a job. So that was my cue to stay. So
Yeah.
I stayed and I had the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And then that same uncle from Ohio, he came down to New Jersey. He's like, I don't like Newark, because I was inside of Newark in the hood, kind of like
In the
in
city.
the inner city. And he's like,
Yes.
no, you're not staying here.
Mm-hmm.
And he brought me to Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky enough, because I still had my Canadian visa, was
Yes.
still open, and I'm a US, and I'm in here with a US visa.
Mm-hmm.
I went out and then I came back in to get some
Mm-hmm.
more time. And
Mm-hmm.
then they were able to, at that time now, flip and process me into a student visa.
Okay.
But that is when real trouble started, Dr. Truffy, because now I have a baby.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
in Ohio. I'm not in Jersey where I can pick up a job just like that.
Right.
Um,
Transportation access, your
my
ability
uncle
to
had
move
to give
around.
me a car. They had to pay my insurance.
Mm-hmm.
They had to declare everything that they had in order to get me this visa to turn over for immigration status.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going to start school and I had no money. School accepted me. Um, that that's why my response the other day was like a little bit tough, because I was starting school, I have a baby, and I have no money.
Yes. Now, pause for a second. You say, so am I saying that's why her response the other day was a little bit tough? She's talking about a student
Mm-hmm,
who is being supported by the
mm-hmm,
government with
mm-hmm,
financial whatever
mm-hmm,
scholarships, and the student was upset that the money had not come in
mm-hmm,
as it had been promised on time. So yes, go ahead,
mm-hmm.
Alma.
Oh, my panilaja, I did not have any.
Yes.
And now here this Dr. Triffy. So my dad has two siblings, one sister, one brother.
Hmm.
The brother is a doctor, and
Yes.
he desperately wanted anybody, any niece he had, to be in medicine, follow his footsteps.
Mm.
But I knew that, and I knew when I was in Canada doing my degree in the sciences in education, if I wanted to go on to medicine, he was there, he was helping me, he was
Hmm.
supporting me. Now
Hmm.
I'm back in the US now with this baby. I have not told him I had a baby or anything going on. He's a doctor and he's like straight to the book. And I said, well, I'm going to have to call him and tell him I'm back in school.
Yes.
So I called him. He had no judgments. And he asked me how much money I want. And Dr. Chiffy, tell me how much. I tell the man I
How
needed.
much you say? 1,000?
No, just what I needed for the semester. Like, how's.
But you don't really know, and
I
you're
mean,
so
we were really
conscientious,
naive in those days. Eh?
naive and very conscientious, naive and
Yes.
very
I
conscientious.
asked the man for just the amount for the tuition, my
Yeah.
books, and I think I put in maybe $300 extra.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I was like, how could I? After he hung up the phone, and I would never call him back, after that day to ask him for more money.
Why?
So
Do you know why?
my pride, like,
Yes.
I got that first start off, and I just thought, you know what? I'm going to have to figure it out from here. He's
Yes.
given me a start. I can't go back and keep asking him, Uncle, I need this such and such money. But I had a miracle. And I really wanted to touch on that.
Yes.
So, because I'd been in Canada and I was so young, my Canadian accent never really left me
Yes.
at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to register for the next semester, and the lady hands me back my invoice,
Mm-hmm.
and I was so disgruntled I didn't even look at it. I took it and I went home.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got home, my uncle says, "Well, where the, how much you?" So I say, "Oh, let me get
The
it for you,
receipt.
uncle."
Yes. Yes.
When I looking at this, I say, "Uncle, they made a mistake. This is showing in-state tuition." Somehow that lady probably thought I did not look like an international. Our
Right.
tuition was double,
Right. That's right.
800 and something dollars I had to pay.
That is a miracle because international students pay at least twice the amount.
And do you know, I wanted to go back to the school and tell them they make a mistake. Mon-
Conscientiousness. It was drilled into
Boy,
us.
when you
Into
come
the
home,
generation.
Dominica, that level of suckness.
It's not sadness, it's conscientiousness. It is
My,
drilled into you.
my
Yes.
auntie said, "What? You're crazy? That's your miracle from God. Take it." So I paid my tuition and I graduated, in my last semester. I needed some paperwork. I had one class taken, and I went on, and the lady says, "Oh my God, we've been charging you this all the time." And I said, "Yes." And she says, and I'm like shaking while she's saying yes now. And she's like, "Well, I guess I can't do anything about it right now, but I do have to charge you for this semester, which was $500 for one class, eh? So you know how much I would have paid as
Exactly.
out of state
That is a
student."
miracle. That is a miracle.
And I had some angels. I mean, from then, I would think from then my
Yes.
real journey in life began. It was like I had the baby.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow I was supposed to be in that place at that
Yes.
time, and everything began to fall into place.
Yes.
I had the baby. Out of nowhere, out of like magic, I got a
Mm-hmm.
job that was
Mm-hmm.
paying me enough money. Oh, but
Yes.
before I get that job, can I tell you my other job story? I
Yes.
got a job from a lady, which is again why I was so upset the other day. The lady offered me to pay me $20 a day to clean her house.
A whole house.
Her whole house, Dr. Chiffy. And I
20
worked,
a day.
and I would go to class, drop my daughter off to a babysitter,
Yes.
run to class, in between class, run and clean the house, from class, run back and finish helping the lady, then
Yes.
go back to get the baby for
Yes.
$20 a day, 5 days a week. And my
Yes.
babysitting fees was 75. Again, why? I didn't know I could get aid for babysitting. One
Yes.
day the lady watching the child says to me, "But Miss Alima, why you paying me?" I'm like, "What do you mean, why I paying you?"
Yes.
He's like, "These other kids are here for free." I was like, "Say what?" She's like, she's like, "Ain't you a US?" I said, "No, I'm not a US citizen. I don't think I can get that." She's like,
Yes.
"Girl, your daughter is an
The
American
baby
citizen."
years.
And
Yeah.
she said, "Go down to that caseworker." So off
Yes.
I went down to the caseworker. She said, "Of course." I had
Yes.
my social from school. I showed them my visas and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And lady was paying. They were paying the lady. I did not even know that
Yes.
you could get babysitting.
Yes.
And so from then, when I graduated that school, I got, is it OPT? I think OPT.
Yes. The practical training.
Yes. And
Yes.
then I did a degree in marketing at that
Yes.
time. I transitioned from the education in sciences and I went to marketing. And
Okay.
then I had a little Chinese friend and she would always guide me. I always had angels. And she
Yes.
would come and she said, OPT, OPT. And she says, "No, go get job." So I went and I got a job. And she said, "Make job pay for your rest of your tuition." I said, "Say what?" 5 grand a year job giving $5,300.
Yes.
Just the right amount to pay
Make it
for the
through.
rest of the degree,
Yes.
and I only needed a year and a half. And then when the year was done, OPT was done,
Yes.
and then I said, "Oh my God, what am I gonna do for the last semester? I have no money." She said,
Yeah.
"CPT, CPT, CPT." So I was working in the bank, and my boss absolutely loved me. And she says, "Oh, of course, Alima, we sign everything, all the paperwork." So I did the CPT, and then I
And
finished
CPT
the
is what?
degree.
Career practical training?
Curricular practical training, but you
Okay.
kind of have to design a course that
Yeah.
falls within the criteria. And oh, my
Yes.
Chinese friend fixed that for me. She showed me which class to take,
Yes.
and in the end she said, do this class, do this class. And then I ended up getting double major. I didn't even know I was double majoring all the time. Weird things always happen to me, and I didn't know this was happening. So I graduated with that degree in business, and
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'm going to go back to Dominica. So I
Yes.
packed my car, packed my bag, and off to Jersey I go. My daughter was home already. Her dad had come and gotten her.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just finishing up some stuff in Jersey when my aunt says, "You really shouldn't go back. You shouldn't go back to Dominica." And my mom said, "You really shouldn't come back because the
Mm.
political government had changed, and
Oh,
everybody know at that time, Margot, people, long story short, she said she thought it would be very difficult for me to get a job."
yes.
And I said, "Okay, I will stay." And I ended up being working as a nanny, in New Jersey with a degree
Yes.
while I ended up paying to finish off my MBA, and not working with it. And so when my papers came through and everything, it had been 14 years I had now worked in that field. And
Yes.
by then, social media, it was in marketing and everything had changed.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, what am I going to do? Like all the jobs I was applying for, they were entry level. And I was like, if I'm going to do entry level job, I may as well go do something I want.
That's right.
And the original thing was in the sciences, more towards medicine. So that's how I ended up going to do nursing. So I told my family, stand back. I have done enough for you guys. I have sacrificed. I literally said it
That's
like that.
important.
I was
That
like,
is important.
I said, everybody get out of my way.
Yes.
I am going back to school. Yeah. So I
That's
went.
important. I want you to talk a little bit more about that, where you say to your family, stand back, because I sense
Mm-hmm,
um, what you're referring to is the fact that our families can be very hands-on,
mm-hmm,
even if we're far away,
mm-hmm,
and their words mean a lot to
mm-hmm,
us.
mm-hmm.
I
And
mean,
I had a lot of burden because Dr. Triffy, inside of all of that, I was still my little $20, $200 I make in a week. I was making barrel and sending and
sending
doing
it
things to
away.
help my mom at home.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's why those things, that behavior that was perpetuated, I took it personal because I check
Mm.
in, boy. I
Yeah.
mean, I was still sending barrel, sending brother and sister to school,
Yes.
doing susu on top of that,
What is
making
a
money.
susu?
Huh?
Educate the people who don't know what is susu. What is susu?
Sub, $100 a week. My Jersey people were so fantastic. I did not get to talk about my support group in Jersey. When I came in as a pregnant woman,
Yes.
there's this lady, Miss Betty, and everybody used to call her Mama. And my aunt used to work and live in on her job, and we used to hang out there. My job, I would come home on the weekends, live in, come home on the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
And that is who kind of like took over from in terms of like finishing Mother Me. Because my
Yes.
aunt had done some, but I went home and I came back. And I'm still in my early 20s, so
Yes.
I still need some help. So between those people, boy, these people could save. They taught me how to save, how to join the susu,
Yes.
basically how to live inside of the American
The
system.
system. The
Yes,
system. So the susu, yeah.
yes.
The susu is a way we have
Mm-hmm.
learned to save money collectively.
Mm-hmm.
Jamaica.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And every week somebody is called, you draw the hand.
And yes,
So if
yeah,
there are 10 people, then this week I draw
1,000. Yes.
exactly $1,000, and then we stagger it until we start over again.
Mm-hmm.
Many of
Mm-hmm.
us have used Susu to pay our student loans off, to buy homes, to take care of ourselves. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And the susu, I saw Judge Judy talking down about susu once. I was like, that lady had no
They
idea
don't
like how
understand.
susu works. I
They
mean,
don't
of
understand.
course, you may end up with one bad apple.
Hmm.
This
But
is
that's
why when you pay the susu, you give the person in the susu at least $100 or something so that they can put there to save in
yes,
case you have a rotten egg in the susu, which I never had. I
yes.
Jersey people are really tight on that.
And I
I
think
never had
there's
that
a
experience.
decrease of the conscientiousness that we were
Mm-hmm.
trained in, that
Mm-hmm.
you talked about in this story tonight, where the susu is sacred.
Mm-hmm.
Almost people, very few people. You really have
Mm-hmm.
to have a bad apple,
Yes.
from my
Mm-hmm.
experience. And I do remember having to explain this to many people, especially during COVID, when some bastardized version of the susu was running around called the blessing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That was really kind of gross and left a lot of people on the hook. But this is a way we have used for hundreds of years to save collectively. Hmm.
Mm-hmm. So
Yes.
the susu. So in terms of telling my family stand back, I felt
Hmm.
like I had really sacrificed a lot. I had been given for so long
Hmm.
to my kids. My first daughter went to private school. I mean, I did everything. Again, the susu would show up.
Yes.
I also had some amazing people in my life. The family that I worked for in Ohio were the first set of angels, I think, that was just sent from nowhere. Like people that don't know me. I mean, when I say angels, people around me, I consider them my like soulmates. But
Yes.
like these other people were just sent, and you're just wondering, how did they? And they have no explanation for helping me.
Yes.
And I remember I had a family in New Jersey. I stayed with them for 11 years.
Mm,
And when I was leaving, when they at the same time were transitioning to move to Oregon,
yeah.
and they said, Holly, you're too smart for this. We are transitioning. You need to transition with us. We
Hmm.
don't want you to be anybody else's nanny at home.
Oh.
And so, yeah, they accommodated me.
Mm-hmm.
I would go to school in the mornings, come in the afternoons,
Mm-hmm.
and Dr. Triffy, I worked 3 jobs and went
Yes.
to nursing school.
Yes.
Again, I mean, and
Yes.
even though I had financial aid,
Yes.
I
You
had
work.
to work that job in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
I had to work overnight. I did a case. So I would drop the my kid to school in
Yes.
the morning.
Yes.
Then I would go to class. Then at 2 o'clock, I would run to this other job, come back at 5. The
Mm-hmm.
13-year-old would pick up her sister,
Mm-hmm.
bring her home. I had food made on a Sunday. I made every boy food for the whole week,
Week.
meals, home cooked meals,
Mm-hmm.
and package them so they knew when they came home they could heat this food up. They would
Yeah.
eat. By 6 o'clock, I'm home. I bathe them. I read to them. I put them in bed. By 8:30, they're sleeping.
Yes.
And then,
Remind us how old you are at this
excuse me,
time. Remind us how
at
old
this
you
time,
are.
I'm like in my mid 30s.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And I am hustling 3 jobs with these
Yes.
kids.
Yes.
And then on the weekends I would do 2 16-hour shifts, one on Saturday and one on Sunday. And the only thing I made sure I did was sleep. So I slept first.
Yes.
So I everything rotated around my sleep and
Mm-hmm.
still graduate with honors. So it's like, I mean, sometimes I would fall asleep with my head on the book and I would say, divine order, like let everything
Full.
fall into
Fall
me,
into place.
because sometimes you just don't even have time to study. And
Yes.
in Ohio, there were times I didn't have money to buy the books.
Yes.
So I had to go to class and sit there and listen and
Mm-hmm.
still get an ear,
Yes.
make notes like at the speed of light,
Yes.
record the class, and my entire studying would be based off of just notes
Yes. And still make an A.
and still make an A.
Yo, Hetty, Wilworth, Rosemond, Ramona, Marceline, y'all, thank you all so much for
Mhm,
listening. Please share the live. Please share the live. This is powerful. This is important. I'm hearing these themes, right? How are you making it through? You're making it through on support. You're also
mhm,
making it through on conscientiousness, tenacity,
mhm,
and a really strong work ethic. A strong
mhm.
work ethic.
Yeah, I think thankfully, I think the thing that our parents gave to us, I don't know anybody from my graduating class of 1990 that have not gone on to college and not made honors. I
Yes.
mean, this is not a story that is
Unique.
exclusive to me.
Hmm.
Every single friend of mine that
Yes.
have gone to, everybody on my Facebook page that went
Yes.
to school, they graduated with honors.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think the level of discipline
Yes.
that we were taught, and the
Rosemary Smith.
tenacity, like you're
Yes.
talking about, to
Grit.
persevere,
Grit.
open your eyes. I
Pure
mean,
grit. Yes.
you
Yes.
had to do it
Yes.
because you out there by yourself.
That's right.
And when you make other decisions, like, and I even made it a little bit fancier. I had two children doing
That's
all
right. You made it more interesting for yourself.
I had two children in between all of this.
Yes.
For nursing school, I did send them home to my mom
Okay.
in the end, towards the end of nursing school.
Mhm.
And then in the last year, the little one came back. I couldn't do without her, so she came back. But my older daughter stayed.
Yeah.
And then right after I graduated nursing school, I was so excited. I promised them so many things that we haven't done yet. I said, we're gonna go on trips, we're gonna do all these things. Poor kid. Then the reality hit. Okay, yeah, you're working now. So you're working one job now, but you're not making, and it's so funny, you make more money, but you think back to the days when you had less and
That's
you
right.
seem to have saved more.
Sure. Yes. Yes.
So I graduated from nursing school, and then we had just saved up enough money for a down payment on a house. And like we got a realtor, and our apartment burned down. Everything. We lost everything that night.
Wow.
Yes. And it was so traumatic. We went to bed. Um, so let me give a little background on that. When I got um, the apartment was in disarray. But I
Mhm.
always, no matter, you can ask anybody in Jersey, one thing they'll tell you, my apartment outside can look like crap, but inside was an oasis.
Yeah.
So I got a guy to come and fix the bathroom, make the bathroom nice and everything. And he said to me, tell your landlord he needs to fix the electrical wiring in this house, or
Hmm.
else it will go up like a matches box.
Oh, wow.
I talked to the landlord. He came and he checked it, but he never grounded them. And the one he never fixed was in my daughter's room. And then that day, my daughter was about 22 by now. She'd come
Hmm.
back from Dominica, was going to college. And she went to New York to visit some friends.
Hmm.
And for some reason that day, she got up and cleaned her room. And if you know her, that was like, oh, you cleaned your room
Like,
today.
what a sacrifice.
But there was a lamp plugged in, and I
Yeah.
think there was an electrical surge.
Yes.
And that's where, and she had curtains all around her bed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a light sleeper. It's so funny how the universe does some weird things. I
Mm-hmm.
was always a light sleeper up to that point in my life. It was
Mm-hmm.
like I was being prepared for that.
Yes.
I slept like a cat. And I remember that night, my partner says, "Oh, let me close the bedroom door." And I said, "Do not dare close that door. I
Mm-hmm.
need to smell my children and I need to see Maya coming in the side door when she comes in from New York." Because it
Yeah.
was like 9, 10 o'clock and we were tired. We were going to bed. And plus, Camille would get up and just walk to the bathroom. So I always like to see. Once they
Mm-hmm.
wake up, I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard a noise and I jumped up
Mm-hmm.
and I just felt a gush of warmth come in the
Wow.
room. And then Pete got up and he ran and he's like, "Holy shit, the apartment's on fire." And we woke up Camille and was like, "Listen, put on your shoes, go outside. Do
Mm-hmm.
not wait for us, just go outside. Put on your jacket, go outside." And I was about to go outside when I remember I always had an emergency bag packed. And I was always this paranoid mom after 9/11. When
Yeah.
you've lived through 9/11,
Mm-hmm.
I always had a change of clothes according to the weather.
Right.
Because I always prepared my children for a natural disaster.
Mm-hmm.
I always said, if anything happens and mommy's not there, take this bag.
What we do.
Meet me at this point. If you don't see me, keep walking.
Yeah.
This is the highway that goes to Ohio. Walk to Ohio.
Yes.
You will be okay to get to my my uncle. Because I'm always thinking natural disaster, but I never thought fire. So
Yes.
I grabbed my emergency bag, and of course, it had our passports, everything in there. Oh, and 2 days later, we were supposed to go to London to see my dad after 30 years.
Wow.
And he had never met the girls. And everything burned. Everything was creamed in that place. And again, having an insurance policy on your, I'm telling you, you know, a crazy story with that is 4 months before, because I was looking at buying,
Right.
I dropped my policy in half. I was switching over from one insurance and I said, "Oh, I'll just take this little money. That should
Yeah.
cover us in case of emergency."
Yes.
And but that money really saved us. Um, so the fire happened and we ended up going to some family home. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, that cousin of mine had been living with us and she had just left. And even some of her things got burned in the fire.
Wow.
Well, and my dad said, when I called my dad, he said, "Halima, you've lost everything. Just
Mm-hmm.
get on the plane and come to London."
Mm-hmm.
So I called my aunt in Canada, my same aunt, and I said, "But I've lost everything. What am I
Yeah.
going to do?" She's like, "What are you going to do? You're going to look for them?
I
Go
know,
on the
right?
plane
Get
and
on the
go to
plane.
London."
Yes.
So we went to London, and thankfully, I had a month off from work. And when we got to London,
Yes.
I can't even tell you what London looked like. My sister came and took me out a couple days.
Mm-hmm.
All we did was sleep
Yeah.
and sleep. We slept. I think we must have slept for at least 2 weeks of the vacation. And
Yes.
we would get up and they would feed us and then they would let us talk for a little bit.
Stressing.
And then I would go back to sleep
Yes.
and then I would get up and then talk a little bit and
Yeah.
go back to sleep. And we came back to the US. And then my workmates, everybody was really supportive.
Mm-hmm.
We were living with one family member. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
God. Talk about people showing or rearing ugly heads in
Oh.
times of tragedy, acted funny. And again, me with my pride. I
Yes.
packed my little tubs, I put them in my car, and we're literally homeless now.
Oh man.
So we have money in the, so here's the homeless story. We
Yes.
have money in the bank. We
Yes.
cannot find one single Airbnb. I don't know why the hotels are booked. At the same time, my cousin that I grew up with as like my sister, I had a
Yeah.
ton of cousins. And because there was 40 cousins, you grew up with your cousin, that's your sister.
Right. Right.
She calls and she says, "Hey, how are you?" And I said, "Fine." And I hang up. And she calls back and she says,
Something's off. I
"Yes,
hear you.
yes."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "I don't have a place to stay."
Mm-hmm.
And she says, "Hold on a minute."
Mm-hmm.
And she called her mom, and her mom took us in. Her mom lived in New Jersey. So
Yes.
her mom was part of that family I spoke of, Miss Betty. And then
Mm-hmm.
her mom, Leandra, um, took me in. Again, she lived and worked on her job. I
Yes.
had a two-bedroom apartment to
To
myself.
yourself.
Yes. And so I stayed with them for a year
Mm-hmm.
while we tried to sort
Get
to
situated.
get our own place, our
Yes.
own house. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot. It's been a rough ride.
It's
Yeah.
been a rough ride, but you seem to have landed. The ride seems to have settled.
Well, after the fire, we thought we were okay.
Yes.
So we thought we were fine because after the fire, we just kept moving.
Yes.
But we really had the fire really changed us. It changed every single one of us.
Mm-hmm.
I became very, very withdrawn. I
Mm-hmm.
was into myself, internalizing a lot of stuff. I had had one
Processing.
experience where I felt like I was losing control,
Hmm.
and I could feel myself like going in an abyss and feeling like helpless. And I'm like, oh my God, like I can't control anything in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And and I don't know how to express it to the person next to me.
Yes.
And I remember I pulled into my driveway and I just said, I need help. And
Yeah.
I looked up therapists. And I mean, this is random. And again, this
Yeah.
is how I know I have angels. And
Yeah.
this black lady popped up. And I was like, that's it. That's her.
Mm-hmm.
I called her like bawling,
Yeah.
crying.
Yes.
And so I ended up having to go to therapy. And when I was done with therapy, then I put Camille through therapy
Yes.
because of the fire and the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And then then Pete did his therapy as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way things were going that even almost destroyed our relationship. And
Absolutely. Trauma
yeah.
can do that. Trauma can do that.
Yeah, and it's weird unless you've lived it, you like, but that's when you're supposed to stay together.
Right.
No, that's when you start to pick at every little thing
That's right.
that somebody has that is inconsistent, and because you can't control yourself now, like you're just there and
Yes. And your
you know.
emotional resources are low. Normally, you might have more patience. You can reason, through
Mhm,
things. And now, yeah, like you say,
mhm.
you're falling through the abyss. You
And
barely.
we had everything going for us. I was working, I got my house, I
Mhm.
had, and I had a car, like everything I had never had,
Yeah,
everything I wanted, I got at the point of my
materially.
greatest
Yes, yes.
unhappiness.
Look, who's that? Deja Match. Selassie Kenrick says the struggle is real. It is a real struggle. Y'all, share the live, share the live, share the live. What I want us to start talking about now are,
Mhm,
I want us to dig a little
mhm,
bit into the meat of this, because things happen. We move through experiences. We have experiences. And I think we become more powerful
mhm,
when we are able to use that as grist for the mill, where we
mhm,
can dig through the mess to find the pearls. So I'm going to run through a little process with you.
mhm.
And let's see what we come up with. Let's see what pearls we find as we dig through, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so through all of this, the 16-year-old who, can you imagine, starts working at Aid Bank, ends up in Edmonton in the middle of the snow, right? Um, Ohio, Oregon, fire, RN. What have been your biggest joys of this diaspora experience? Your biggest joys?
I think my biggest joys was my kids, of course. I think, I mean, there's so many stories to being in the diaspora. I really need to write a book.
Yes.
Um, but coming here to have the first one was a joy because I made that decision. I
Mm-hmm.
made the decision I was not going to have an abortion. I could have
Mm-hmm.
had an abortion and stayed home.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to do that. I didn't see that as a choice. So
Mm-hmm.
I made the choice to have her.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second child was also an issue. And I made the choice to have her.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes when they say, but mom, black children are never planned, I said, maybe not planned, but choice
That's
to
right.
keep you
Yes.
in a society where I had choices, I
Mm-hmm.
chose to have you.
That's right. That's right.
And I remember when I was pregnant for the second one, I had everything planned out. Once I knew I was pregnant and I was keeping the baby,
Mm-hmm.
I planned out everything. She says, Mom, you planned my life? And I said, yes. It was my pleasure because I felt like finally I had my own little family.
Mm-hmm.
I had Maya, it was just me and Maya. But
Yeah.
when I had Camille, I
Yeah.
really felt complete. And then when Pete came, we really felt complete.
Oh.
So, so that has been my joy. Forming the family unit, I would
Mm-hmm.
say, has
Yes.
been my biggest joy. Also, in terms of providing financial stability for
Mm-hmm.
my mom, the other side of me too, um, I have a total of 20 brothers and sisters. And so, not all over the place. It's
Yes.
just three. My dad is only, but I think I have siblings that live in Africa. That's a whole other story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but being able to help when I needed to help,
Mm-hmm.
being able to make sure that any sibling I had the opportunity to get an education. I
Mm-hmm.
think those have been my biggest joys.
Yes.
And then more recently, finding my purpose.
Which is?
So becoming a nurse and getting reintroduced to agriculture because I did it for 5 years. I did
Yeah.
it even in fifth form.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I started seeing the commonalities between the two of them.
Yes.
And so I am determined to push forward into a practice where people can utilize food as medicine.
I
You
love
know,
it.
I haven't really gone full fledged into it because I'm still in the learning process. So
Yes.
I'll throw out a couple of things here and there. I still have to do my NP. I still have to do my functional medical part more,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm very interested in functional medicine.
Yes.
And I never thought I would go beyond the RN because I had promised the kids no more school. So I'm actually waiting for the 16-year-old to go off to college because I made that promise. And I
Yes.
said I'm going to keep that promise before I can do anything else.
I love that. Let food be your medicine and let your
Mhm.
medicine be your food. Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. What have been your biggest pains or your biggest pain?
My,
What would you say your biggest pain has been through the experience?
I have had always from the day I left, I had this massive, I can only put it as a GoPuel for
Oh,
Dominica.
I understand.
I mean, you would think it would be something else, but the
Say to
money,
the people, what is
the
a Gorpwell? So what is Gorpwell? To those people who don't
GoPuel is
understand.
you cannot describe it in English even, but it is an emotional state of want, even beyond want
Yeah,
itself.
yeah.
And you crave it. It could be a person too.
Hmm.
Usually it's in terms of a relationship, a guy leaves a girl or a girl leaves a guy and
Yeah.
they want each other back and the feeling of longingness and
Desperate
loneliness.
longing. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, from the day I left, was always going back home.
Yes. Yes.
And I used to have these recurring dreams of going back to Dominica all the time. I mean, for years.
I
I could
understand.
get up and taste, and I mean, so that was my biggest source of unhappiness
Yes.
for
Yes.
not being able to go home. For 14 years, I
Yes.
stayed here
Yes.
um, before I was able to go home. Yes.
I can so relate to the recurring dreams. I
Hmm.
mean, I see it now. Waking up and thinking I'm on the beach in Tukari, and then, and then waking up and realizing I'm in a
Yes.
little thingy, what feels like a cell in the middle
Hmm.
of winter in Minnesota. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm bawling. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm. Yeah. Homesickness, I think, was my
yeah,
biggest.
yes,
Yeah. I
yeah,
never got over. I am one of those persons. I have never gotten over Dominica. I
yes,
live, sleep, eat, breathe Dominica. Like, I feel a certain, I think I was very, very intentionally placed there. You
yes.
know?
I
Yes.
understand. I understand
Hmm.
what you're. Oh my gosh. Okay, next question. Based on that experience, what do you want as you keep moving forward in life? What do you want?
The biggest thing I want is for everybody to be happy. And I think, no, I mean, it sounds kind of cliche,
Hmm.
but I want us to achieve a state of utopia, which I see as very possible in
Yeah.
Dominica.
Yes.
And so, my biggest goal, my biggest thing is for us to achieve that level of balance where we understand what is it that we need now that we've been enlightened. I mean, look at us going out into America and wherever. We don't know nothing. We land there, we have to learn the system, whatever. Now we've learned all of this. How do we share it with the people at home in a non-threatening way? Because sometimes we are kind of overbearing and we insert ourselves too much, and the people don't necessarily want to deal with us. So how do we calm ourselves down and calm down the excitement to get to that place to share? Because for me, that's where I see my purpose, like going back into my community. I am now telling my family again what I came to America for. I
Yes.
got the house, I got the school, I got the degree. I Those things mean absolutely
Yes.
nothing in terms of the want to go back home.
Yes.
I just see it as part of the journey to get me to where I need to be now so I
Mm.
can have the enlightenment, that I can have the financial capacity to do what I want. And I think that's part of my journey and
Yes.
the discipline. I think without this journey, I wouldn't be so disciplined or so rigid in what I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then now to be able to share it in a way that it can reach people. Yeah.
That's really powerfully and beautifully expressed. I think part of what you're talking about is maybe our deep consternation sometimes when we want to transfer, you want to download
Mm-hmm.
what you have, like we do on a computer.
Mm-hmm.
We just want to put the drive, the little USB drive in
Mm-hmm.
because we're like, hey, look, see.
Mm-hmm.
But it's finding the language, like you say, that is non-threatening, that is receivable. So downloading the information back into Dominica in a way that it's receivable. So the resistance is not as strong.
And that's very important because a lot of people go home and a lot of people fail.
Hmm.
What I learned from being there, I think also being there for the year before I came
Hmm.
back,
Hmm.
also gave me an insight as to what to do and not do next time I would have gone back.
Hmm.
And then what I've been doing over the past 10, 11 years is going home and reacquainting myself with the culture.
Hmm.
So I have been going back, learning people. I mean, nobody knew me when I went back home after
Mm.
14 years.
Yes.
Even my elders, no, you would think when you normally go overseas, everybody say, "Oh, you come back and you show off.
Right.
You don't know nobody." It was
Right.
the opposite for me. People did not know me.
Wow.
And I had to say, "Oh, it's Halima for Margaret that day." And
Hmm.
they, "Oh, pick me long time, me not see you." which part you made there? And and then now
That's
the
enough
next
for
time you
you.
come back,
Yes.
they say, oh, you're there here again. Nice
Yeah.
to see you. When are you go come back again?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So now I go back, two, 3 times a year.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I go back, they say, you still here? It's like, no, I go and come back.
So you're talking about maintaining the
Mhm.
connection, the thread of
Yes,
connection. Yeah.
because too often we feel like we can change Dominica, and Dominica has moved on.
Yes. Yes.
And we diasporans need to understand that the people have moved on. It's a
Yes.
totally different culture. What
Yes.
me and you talk about and have out here on the outside,
Yes.
it does not exist there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are Dominicans and they are Dominicans. And
Yes.
we need to find a way to become nice with each other
Bridge. We
yeah,
need
yeah.
bridge. We need
We need
bridge.
to bridge, and we need to be able to have a new language form with
Yes.
which we can communicate with each
Yes.
other.
Yes. You
So
know,
going back there and showing off, and the
yeah.
people not interested in that, they'll tell you.
Yes.
I go down there and people tell me, "Oh, you look like you're not doing too well in America. Come, let me feed you." I and I don't. I I I went to buy some bakes once, and I was counting my dollars, and a guy next to me say, "Girl, I'm not America. You come out." I say, "Yes." He say, "What make you there?" He say, "Count dollar bill, lady. Give him some food. Look like I give me her. I'm so good at America." Me? You think I'm mad? I tell the guy, thank you very much. I put all my pennies back into my purse and I take my bakes and go about my
Turn
business.
tail. You turn
Yes,
tail.
so we have to, true story. And they always, when I'm in the village, I
Yes.
have nothing to show off, nothing. I just go. I just go.
Yes.
So, because I want to feel it. I want to go back to that place. So I
Mm-hmm.
cannot stand the outs.
Yeah.
So that is how I'm able to go back and relearn now. I'm relearning my culture where
Mm.
it is now so
Yes.
that I can go back. And that is very important if you want to go back.
You
You
can
cannot go
fit
back
in
with
more
the old
seamlessly.
culture. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that you can never really go back home.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody said that to me when I was really in my pining stage, like desperate Gopwell about Dominica.
Mm-hmm.
Before, there's something that happens, I think, where your brain is in Dominica, although your
Mm-hmm.
body is here
Mm-hmm.
in the first 10, 15 years. And it's almost as if you have to make a conscious decision to realize, well, I am here now, right?
Yes.
And I have to be here
Mm-hmm.
now.
Mm-hmm.
And you almost have to give up the idea of going back to the home that you knew, because that's what you're talking about when you say the home we have in our imagination and our memories
It's not
is
there.
our reality now.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to
Nothing
learn.
is the same. Like I hadn't been to I had to go get some closure because my grandparents have been dead, my gosh, 26 and 16 years now. And I
Hmm.
was never able to go back in the yard. So this Christmas, I went back to the yard and the house is all broken down. And I was like, wow, they're really gone.
Hmm.
They're gone. The house is all my childhood memories in
Yes,
that little house. And
heart on the
what
heart.
it's gone. Yeah, so that is kind of symbolic of where we are now as a society. We we we, we don't, and it's normal. It's not something abnormal.
Yes,
People transition,
evolution.
people evolve. Like, we
Evolution.
cannot expect Dominicans to stay right where we leave you. Stay there. I going overseas. When I come back, I will help you.
Wait for me. But like our
Wait
parents
for
used to
me.
tell us, you remember what they would say? They would spit. You go to the shop,
And
go
when
get
when
some
it
food.
dry, yes.
You better come back before this spittle on the ground is dried.
Yeah. Well, spit dry up. You cannot even find traces of it. It doesn't even exist.
Doesn't exist.
Even the whole little home we grew up in for my mom, it doesn't exist as it is. She have a bright pink house. Growing
Yeah.
up, we were conservative. My mom had a gray and white house. Now the lady has a bright pink house with a green roof. You can spot it from any planet outside there in the galaxy. Okay, so everything has changed.
Yes, yes.
Mhm,
Next question. What
mhm.
do you never want to experience again?
That pain of leaving home. I don't, I remember when I was going back to America and I was pregnant because I went and nobody knew I think my sister alone knew I was pregnant when I
Mm-hmm.
left, and my daughter's dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I, as I was taking off from the airport, she was standing there at the fence. She had a red dress,
Mm-hmm.
and I cried like a baby.
Yes.
I can remember that day. And
Yeah.
I was way into the air, and I was looking back and I was seeing that little red dot.
Yes.
And I mean, and it was 14 years before I could go back. She
Yeah.
would come to visit.
Yes.
She did come to visit us. She came for every baby. She came to stay. She came to in the winters to make sure I don't have to take them out. But
Yes.
I tell you, I would not wish that pain on anybody.
It's very painful. It takes a
Yeah.
long time to find somewhere to put it and something to
Hmm.
do with it on your
Hmm.
inside. Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
Yo, before I ask Amma for la pièce de résistance, I want the lessons. I want your biggest lessons. And I want to say thank you to everybody who's joined us tonight. Portia and Iseline and Inez, Marceline, Vincia, Abu, Marveline, my sister, how are you? Hetty, lots of you have joined in. And I want to tell you all thank you for joining in. We really, I think we are people of stories, and we are people of Tim Tim Boashesh and riddles under the moonlight, yeah, and conte. And we heal when we can tell our story.
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
take the edge off, and we can find the lessons so that the story doesn't just stay as this big old blob of
Hmm.
nebulous
Good.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So I'm so thankful to you, Amma, for sharing your story with us tonight. I'm happy you're the first.
I can't wait to hear the rest because I know some people have some stories that bigger than mine.
Oh my
Because I
God.
have some stories for some friends when I thought I had it bad. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. I didn't tell you the part where we network with there was a trio of us that went, and when one needed that, the other had to get it, and then and owe the money to the $17,000 you had to show to renew your thing every year.
For your papers, the
Yes,
papers.
4 or 5 people. Okay, this week this is your turn. Next week that one turn, and I'm telling you, again, trust and sisterhood, brotherhood. You know,
Support, social support,
I
and
had a good set of people. I don't know. I mean, and I really and people from all over the world there.
yes,
My Chinese people were always there for me.
we call them angels.
Yes, and always knew. And
Yes.
the I had to find out what I was because I swear I was a Nigerian, and I was. Because when these Nigerians lady came, and they were going to tell you where to find that scholarship you need, trust me, everybody getting this scholarship. Say, Halima, you not heard? There's a scholarship over there now. You need to go and get it.
There's a scholarship over there, Oi. Come on.
Yes, hurry up, go and get it now.
Oh man. So I want to know uh your biggest lesson from this diaspora experience.
I will tell you. I'll put it like this. After I was in New Jersey, I went back to Ohio and I went to church.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to go to a church out there. It was a non denominational.
Mm-hmm.
And the pastor, New Covenant Believers Church, you guys can tune in. Pastor Howard Tillman is like phenomenal. And he was lecturing that day on Out of Egypt.
Ooh.
Yes. And at the time, I was stuck in New Jersey and I was thinking, when am I going to get out of Egypt?
Yes.
Because I
Yes.
feel like I'm in Egypt.
Yes.
And for years, since that sermon, it's been my, again, placed. I'm there in the right time and the right place to
Yes.
hear this sermon by divine order.
Yes.
Um, that um, I had to stay in New Jersey through the fire, through everything. And everybody know me. I have this big ego. I have ego for days. From since I was a little child, I malcasse. I could tell you what I want. My mother was never going to beat me for nobody, so I was very malcasse. But in the process, I had to learn humility.
Mm-hmm.
So a little voice would tell me, when you've learned enough humility, you will be out of Egypt.
Yes.
And I think if we listen deep enough inside of ourselves, we will connect to the divine order. We don't need any religion to tell us we are connected to the great God
Yes.
and we can access Him anytime.
Yes.
And if you access God and you are humble and you are willing, you will hear all that is for you and your purpose and everything, and your path will just light up in front of you. You
Mm-hmm.
won't have to question it, you won't have to ask. You will learn to trust your instinct.
Mm-hmm.
I think though that has been a big lesson for me. Every time I went away from my instinct and my internal guide, which is God
Yes.
voice
Yes.
telling me what to do, I ended up in something.
Mm-hmm.
So humility, listening to your inner voice,
Mm-hmm.
finding your purpose and living it. And I mean, in this last 2 years, it's been phenomenal. Dealing with Dominica Garden Club.
Mm-hmm.
Also finding myself caught up in Uganda, which was never on my radar. I don't know how it reached there. And dealing with a lot of charity work in in Uganda while
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to help my own people. I'm
Yeah.
like, God, really? I
Yeah.
was like, that money over there, I could do something in Dominica with it. But the little voice is like, nope, nope.
What do you think what do you think that is for?
That is preparation for something else.
Thank
Yes.
you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's already coming to fruition. I didn't even know. And all where I would go, like climate change groups, wherever,
Mhm.
any international group, now it's Ugandans I'm meeting, Ugandans that I'm falling in love with.
Yes.
And and interestingly, my DNA ancestral mother, 13,000 years ago, came from the Congo region, which is right next to Uganda.
Wow.
Yes. So I have this strong belief that I am from these people.
Yes.
I really, because it went, oh, I mean, this is DNA talking now, this is God
Absolutely.
talking now.
Absolutely.
hmm So that whole story of understanding what it is to be like in Egypt,
Mm-hmm.
understanding that you can rise to status in Egypt and you can become king of Egypt
Yes.
if
Yes.
you conquer your fears
Yes.
and you can lead your people out of when you understand your
Yes.
Egypt. Yeah.
Humility,
Yes.
obedience,
Yes.
grit, tenacity.
hmm
Yeah.
Obedience. Oh boy. I had to learn that one because if you ask any of my teachers, Dr. Triffy, I got over 20 something detentions in just third form alone.
Oh
Nobody
my,
knew what to do with me.
oh my goodness.
Yes. And
Yeah.
the way they used to do it was flip me to the next class in primary school. That's how I ended up. graduating at
At
15. They're like, oh,
15.
you're troublesome. You know the work.
Yes.
Next class, we can't
Yes.
handle you. We don't want you in our class. So I had to learn to be obedient
Yes.
and to really go into myself. And I found out that I really, as much as I am an extrovert and I like to talk, I found
Mhm.
out that I really like my time by myself.
You need
I
solitude.
can go on a vacation by
Hmm.
myself.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Amma, I hear you saying that the answer is inside. It's not
Hmm.
external. It's an inside. It's an inside job,
Hmm.
y'all. It's an inside job.
Between you and God.
And your maker and your source,
Hmm.
the God of
Hmm.
your understanding.
Hmm. Between you and God. And what I found on that journey, don't define God.
That's
Let God define you. Because too often we're out there trying to define God and to put God in a box.
into our box.
Yes.
Yeah.
God not in your business. God have work specific orders for you. And look
Absolutely.
at that. Now I could take that education that I did. I'm taking the business, the RN, I'm putting it all together as to what I should do to help my people. And
Yes.
even now, when I'm saying, oh, yeah, I want to be over there in Dominica, another voice say, yeah, Dominica, yeah, we get you, but Uganda over there
Uganda
first.
first. Uganda
Yes.
first.
Yes, Uganda first. I mean, Dr. Triffy, the universe has done some stuff with me. I'm like, I'm like, and sometimes the universe will be like, oh, I want you to, like, somebody will say, well, we need this, and I was like, well, that little money I had there was to do something in Dominica, and then God saying, like, go and give the money to the people. I said, but God, I don't have it. Give whatever, give, and the other thing is, give of yourself.
Yes.
Just give
Yes.
yourself. People say, I see people all the time on Facebook saying, um me is just for me, myself, my family. I see that a lot. Oh, I don't bother with nobody. I'm not gonna trust anybody. And Dr. Triffy, I'm like, and my mother says my biggest, my best trait, and it's my worst.
What's on your
I
best?
am open. I'm an open book. I just believe that God protects me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am fearless. I've always been fearless as a child.
Mm-hmm.
And I leave it open. It's the divine order, the divine will that guides me every day.
Yeah.
And no man, no thing, no person
Yes.
can change that. And
Yes.
once you get to that point where you have that, that ego that you can do all things, that's why the Bible says you can do all things through
Yeah.
God, you know. And that's how I live my life now,
So, so I'm hearing you say that whatever it is, whatever story, whatever experience that
Mhm,
comes to me based on whatever
mhm,
choice I make is happening for me somehow,
mhm,
as opposed to
mhm,
to me,
mhm,
just
mhm.
to me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm, mhm.
Look, Isaac.
Let life pursue you.
Oh,
Don't pursue life.
yes,
I have learned that's one of my latest pearls. So now I'm sitting there and somebody says, what next? I'm like, I don't know.
yes.
It will be revealed in due time. When
I
I get the memo, I will tell you when I
understand.
get the memo. But if God not ready to give the memo, and again, it sounds weird and it sounds crazy if you're not connected. That's
Yes,
why when people talk like that, they say, boy, Mr. Crazy, Mamselle
yes,
Crazy. But
yes.
the people that are in tune and connected, they get
They
orders. They
understand.
get that divine order for
Yes,
themselves. Hmm.
yes. Iselin says again, Dr. Triffy, your song, give God his due and he'll give back to you. So
Yes,
Amma
yes.
and I were talking before we started, and Amma said, I didn't know you could sing, but I kind of had a feeling, Dr. Wallet. Dr. Triffy is what she calls me. And yes, when I was a little girl, 21, we recorded an album in Dominica with gospel messengers at Portsmouth Catholic Church. Yeah.
Mm.
I don't sing professionally now, but I sang that song, Give God His Due, and He'll give back to you. And again, when we all have a different name. We have our name for a source energy, whomever, whatever you call the God of your understanding. That's such a powerful and uh, I think those of us, I think people who don't yet have an understanding of that suffer in the world, in this realm, a lot more physically and emotionally and psychologically than those who do have that understanding that they are plugged in and that they have access. They have access to support on
And
that.
know your angels when they come and listen to them.
And listen, so there's the obedience piece again. Like
Yes. Yes.
awareness. Be willing to see. And when you see, take the next right action.
Yeah. I think when I thought, even when Pete met me,
Hmm.
I the day I met him was the day I said, God, I'm done. I'm over. No more guys for me. It's over. It's done. And the day I looked up, it was a fall day. I'll never forget it. It was beautiful, orange leaves, blue sky. I said, I'm happy. Before I met him, I'm like, I'm happy with myself.
That's a
I'm
big
good.
deal.
Yes, I'm good. Then
Yeah.
I met him. And then recently I had this girlfriend that I met, and a friend of mine says, I want you to meet this person. They're phenomenal. And I met the person, we started talking, and because this friend of mine, we used to do everything together. All our business idea. I have only one partner in crime up to that point. Well, we became a trio, and I used to be like, but God, I never knew I could make more friends. I thought all I had was enough. And then I made this friend. And then, recently I've been meeting people. And when I listen to them now, I say, aha,
Yeah.
so that's your message for me. And sometimes they don't come to be your friend. They
Say.
just come with a message. And you're
Hmm.
like, thank you very much. You
Yes.
know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, what a powerful discussion. What a gift, Amma. What a gift.
Can
Okay.
I can I ask her age? I'm almost, well, 50, 48. Yeah.
I love how you said that.
I'm looking forward to being 50, Dr. Trivi. Everybody that knows me knows I wear my gray hair because I said I diet once a year, and um once or twice a year I'll diet, and then
Yeah.
my baby will cry. She's like, Mom, you so hypocritical. Oh, I can't believe you. You talk all these things about natural and
Natural
food and
this.
medicine, and here you are dying your hair. You really need to stop it. And then the older one goes, oh, Mom, you really need to do something about that. So I'm not one of those people that don't want to get older, because I am thinking, as you age, a whole bunch of stuff opens up. So
Yeah.
I'm very curious as to what's going to happen next. So I'm like the next person. I'm like,
Yeah.
bring it on. Bring on the age, bring it on.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So Prince B is saying that they think they beat you when it came to detentions.
No, my dear, you did not. That's just third form, 20 something detentions. Man, every week I was on detentions with one or two detentions a week. It
They've
wasn't
had
just
your number.
one. Oh, that's my agricultural science teacher.
He's got the deets.
Yes, I mean, I was really, I think I had some form of ADHD, to be
Mhm.
honest, when I was younger,
Yeah.
and the teachers could never like catch up to me, because I remember in elementary school, by the time they were done writing that stuff on the board, I had already figured out all the problems. I had
Yeah.
already written it down. I had already done my work. Some of them used to like tell me not to do it. And the only teacher that was able to get a hold on me in elementary school was Lennox Linton's mother. Rachel Linton. She would put me to read these complicated books and complicated stuff. And I think after our year, she retired. But she knew how to handle
What's
me.
your
And
medicine?
she
You had your
always had
medicine.
extra work for me to do.
Yes.
And she kept me under control. And then in high school, a few teachers that had me under control was Windy Riviere, Henderson. She had me under control. I was relatively well behaved in her class. And our school favorite was Arlington Burnett. He had me under control. And it's any teacher that had discipline and structure for me,
Mm-hmm.
I was better in their class.
Mm-hmm.
If
I
you
sense
didn't
some
have this,
respect too. I
yeah,
sense you felt
yes, yes.
respected by those
Mhm.
teachers as well.
Yes, yes. And to this day, I mean, I keep up with those teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Lucia Blaise Riviere, she was
Mm-hmm.
my literature teacher. She was like a mommy to
Mm-hmm.
us. And she was always fun, so there was never time to be naughty in her
To be mean.
class.
Oh my
Yes.
God.
Um,
I think
and
you're offering teachers a very powerful
mhm,
intervention for kids with attention
mhm,
challenges. Very
mhm,
often it's because they do understand the material
mhm.
and their focus is like, I'm done. I need something else to focus on. If you
I
have a
never realized it until I became a nurse as to
yeah.
how I would see all the nurses finishing stuff and being in a, like they would finish in a pattern,
Mm-hmm.
but I was always very haphazard. And
Mm-hmm.
then I would come in, and then because I was always somebody that wanted to memorize everything, I'd
Mm-hmm.
come in and I would try to memorize all my patients' meds when they were due. I would take like a picture with my brain, and then I'm like, oh, this is due
Yes.
then, da 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 da. And then I
Yes.
would just go all the place like crazy. This one, that one, this one, this.
Mhm.
And then I'm observing everybody, and I'm like, but wait a minute, you all seem calm. And
Yes.
I'm like, oh. And I was like, wait, I need to calm down because I was always studying and moving and working. It didn't show up. But now when I just had just one job now,
Right, right, right,
then it's like, ah. And if you
right.
watch me clean my house, I clean the kitchen. 5 minutes, something goes, I have to go use the bathroom. Then I
Yeah.
start cleaning in there. Then I come back, I was like, the TV look like it needs some dusting. I
Mhm.
start there, and then I'm doing laundry, and it's
Mhm.
so I learned to try to
Compensate.
channel all the energy,
Right. Mhm.
to do something with
Yes.
the energy. And I don't think my teachers realized that. And
That's
I
what
don't blame them. They didn't know that I had those. Only the more mature teachers
yeah.
probably understood that, because I
Mm,
had teachers that were 18, 19 teaching me back in those days.
mm, mhm. And we don't do testing like psychoeducational, psychological testing with our kids.
Mm-hmm.
Well, exactly what is going on. But those teachers, like you said, who you have some teachers who have the wherewithal, who have
Yes. Oh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They had me under control. When I saw them, I would be it myself. And they weren't mean to me. No, those are my teachers I absolutely loved.
It's
But
energy. It's an energy thing too.
mm-hmm,
It's an energy thing too.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Y'all, we're getting ready to wrap up at 9. I want to tell y'all thank you so much. I'm going to share some more of your comments and your questions. I want to invite you tomorrow at 7 p.m. my time, which is 8 p.m. Dominica time. I'm making a very valiant effort to get Mr. Elvis Francois or Hines, survivor, the gentleman who was adrift at sea from Dominica, from Dodan. He has said yes to talking with me tomorrow, and I hope that he can actually talk with me. But so just until hang on, pay attention to my people and listen because we might have a very nice conversation. Okay, I'm hoping we can have a very nice conversation. And interestingly, while we're doing that, Amma, can you hear me? It's doing something interesting. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. It's my daughter. My first kid is a baby. Once she cannot get me, she keeps calling, and she will call and call until she gets a hold of me.
This comment right there, it hit me. Children of the Isles shall prepare the way of the kings and the queens of the East. And he was talking in reference to your experience of this space as a sort of Egypt, as an Egypt.
Mhm.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, this
I
is
pray.
our Egypt. If you've been
I
here,
call
you
it
know
Babylon.
Egypt.
I call it Babylon.
I call it Egypt because so many of us have risen, and I have
Yeah,
been privileged to see friends. All of us were at the same level, waiting on that green card, waiting on. I mean, we've all moved on. We
yes,
all have spouses, we have homes, we have children, and the progression has been really positive for most
yes.
of us. Yeah.
And again, we are highlighting some of these uh, internal psychological factors like
Hmm.
grit, like stick to itiveness, like
Hmm.
discipline, like continuing to
Hmm.
persevere regardless of what is
Hmm.
happening. You're taking the next right action. You're being conscientious, even though even though it's to your detriment. You're trying your best to do the
Hmm.
right thing, to do what is right according to your understanding of what is right, because that's how we, I think the inner man, that's how we give birth to purpose and connect to our real selves, like who am I really and why am I here? Who am I?
Hmm.
I am Halima. You
Yes.
understand?
Yes, and my that name I never used it for a while, But my mom, when she wrote me or she
Mhm.
talked to me,
Yeah.
I always signed my letters to her, Love Amma,
Oh,
and
Mama is
she,
a word that means mama to the net.
yes, I'm not sure what it means. It's a Ghanaian name,
Mm.
and she said she had this friend in high school. I think it was
Mhm.
Amma Harris or something. She loved that name, so she
Mhm.
named me Amma. It's not a Muslim name because my dad named me the Halima Karima, and
Yeah.
then the Amma with the Abdullah.
Yeah.
That's and Thomas was my Christian name that was given to me, to my
Mhm.
dad, and then he changed that to Abdullah. So I
Mhm.
have two sides of me, the Christian side and the Muslim side, and
There's balance.
yeah,
It's lovely to have
and
balance.
then the me side.
Tanya says, "Oh my God, the universe sent Amma for me." So Tanya is having. She, She says, "I need to learn humility, and then I will come out of my Egypt." So
Yeah,
that resonates.
there's studies that show if you hook someone up to show how they progress with their brain waves and their
Hmm.
pattern
Hmm.
to get into the theta stage. I think
Yes.
it comes only when
Yes.
you give up and you become thankful and
Yes.
you have humility and you say, you just put yourself in a state of thankfulness.
Gratitude.
It's very hard to do, but I've been trying. Yeah.
It is hard to do, especially in the middle of pain,
Hmm.
especially when your house burns down.
Hmm.
It's hard to find something to feel grateful for about that. But that's when we have to do. That's
Hmm.
when we have to work harder to find the
Hmm.
things we can feel grateful for.
Hmm.
Yes. And Iselin says, when you've learned enough humility and empathy, the blessings start to flow.
Very
These
beautiful.
things do take us into a
Yeah.
theta state, which is a state of flow. Like you're saying, the blessings start to flow. It's a flow state where life opens up. The same similar experience like you experiencing the blue skies and that pretty fall day and feeling I'm so happy. What happens is ploop, you know, energetically, whew, here comes love. I'm vibrating on love.
Yes.
There comes love. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, y'all. What a lovely, lovely, lovely message. Marvelyn says, girl, I was just telling a total stranger that same message. You don't need religion, but a connection with the divine power.
Hmm.
Yes, 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 yes. Some Charmaine is asking you to check your instant messenger junk folder. Bobone is saying he's listening. Fern, thank you. Fern says this is a beautiful program. Fern,
Oh, Fern is one of my great friends from high school.
oh,
Yes.
oh, so Fern, we intend to keep having these conversations with people who
I
have left.
could give you a story too from the diaspora. I mean, we left home about the same time with
Yes,
some pretty interesting stories. I mean, when I call Fern, I just clear the afternoon. We don't talk a lot, but when we call, it's like 5 hours. My family knows that's it.
yes.
It's the end of it.
And Marvelyn, you got my love, sis. You know, we
Mhm.
we we are experiencing, life goes on as you are out there in the diaspora. When we're home, we have all of our 50, however, relatives and all of
Mhm.
our friends and all of our networks. And you do have to leave. When you leave, you come and you start over. Yes, you create your little networks, but it's a different thing. It's a different
And I
thing.
just want to add, don't give up. So, because I know I didn't touch on that.
Hmm.
Like wherever you are, nothing comes, you don't come to that state of enlightenment like just like that. Because everybody has a path and everybody has a journey, and
Yeah.
some people may find their purpose at 18, 19 and just live it. And
Yes.
others, like me, it takes a while. Sometimes your traits that you're born with that people think, okay, you're disobedient, you're wayward.
Hmm.
It was always because I needed this ego. I needed this big ego to take me on my journey because I had so much to
Yes.
endure that I needed to be me and
Yes.
to be who I am. And I just want to encourage people, no matter where you are in your journey, it's not about material things, but finding purpose and finding yourself,
Hmm.
finding love. I remember when I used to say, oh, I don't know how to say I love myself. And one of my cousins said, just go in your mirror every day and tell yourself, I love you. And I
Yeah.
was like, she must be kidding. And every day I went and nothing happened. I was like, she really is kidding. And one day I went in the mirror, like after all this, I was like, I really love myself. I can watch myself in the mirror and say, I love myself. So just like that finding Nemo story, finding, who we are, don't give up on yourself. You could
Yeah.
be in a space where you feel like you're in despair, you don't
Mm,
have money. I mean,
mm.
I did it all. $20 a day babysitting. I never gave my gas story. I pulled up with 88 cents to buy gas in Ohio. Gas was 88 cents a gallon. I managed to scrape 88 cents. Why? Because I don't want to ask my uncle for money.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm living in a house where people can give me money. I just don't want to ask.
Yes.
And the guy looks at me and he just shake his head and he put gas in the tank. And
Oh,
still with myself, I had to go back now when I get money and say, yeah,
there
thank you.
you
And
go.
the guy said, don't insult me.
It's the conscientiousness piece, though, in us.
Hmm.
It's the piece that was really deeply
Yes.
instilled.
So no matter where you are, just never give up on yourself.
Hmm.
Go in that mirror and tell yourself you love yourself.
Hmm.
Find that internal relationship with God. Listen to that voice as long as it's telling you good things,
I
by
know,
the way.
I know, right? Because there's
To
different
yeah.
show.
But as
Yeah.
long as you are doing what you have to do, you will find the purpose.
Yes.
Oh, hi,
We're
Miss
gonna end
Henderson.
on the final comment to somebody who you have admitted
My
to the
teachers
whole
are all
world
watching.
had you under
Of
control.
course, you had us, all of us under control, Miss Henderson. No, Miss Henderson was a classic lady. Classic. The kind of teacher, she was our English teacher.
Hmm.
And she had style and swag. And, everybody wanted to have that style and swag like her. And she had studied in the US, so she had all her nice dan. And so when she came, but she was strict.
Yes.
But she was strict. And she didn't play with her English,
Yeah.
So, yeah. Those are the teachers that really have that impact on you. Again, teachers, if you're there, if your kids are giving you problem, is that troublesome child like me that's going to come back and say, yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Yes. Um, Miss Wendeth Rivera Henderson,
Yeah, that's her. Yeah.
we thank you. So,
I was about to say.
so as we get ready to say good evening and good night and happy night's rest and sweet dreams, I want to say thank you so much, Ama, for
Mhm,
agreeing to share your diaspora story with
mhm,
us. I'm looking forward to reading more of your posts and watching more of your beautiful pictures from your cooking plus the garden club. Yeah. As we leave, can you offer a few last thoughts? Few last thoughts.
I think I've said most of it,
Mm-hmm.
but again, just believe in yourself,
Mm-hmm.
follow your dream, follow what that voice has been saying to you for so long. This is your gift. This is what you've been ordained to do. That voice comes with you with instructions and lessons for life,
Mm-hmm.
and you always do best when you can tune in and listen to it. Uh,
Absolutely.
Yeah, basically that's it.
And then something for Dominica. I want you to tie this all into home.
Dominica, oh my goodness. I am hoping that through all of this and us talking about our struggles, that maybe Dr. Triffy will do a live with you guys too on how you felt when that person moved away from you, that loved one,
Yeah.
and the void or the impact it had on you, and how you've suffered
Mm-hmm.
and we've suffered, and how we should try to make amends with each other, not telling each other what to do, but to just come back to that Kudma spirit of holding each other hands and helping each other to move on. That's my wish for Dominica.
I received that. I received that. Thank you for saying it in that way.
Hmm.
And thank you all for joining us and listening. I hope you join me tomorrow evening if Mr. Elvis says he has already said yes, but just in case he can actually come on, life is life and things can change. And so I pray that I can have him with us tomorrow so we can support him because this has been a traumatic event, and it's such a big story that I feel like he needs as much support as he can get. So thank you all for joining us.
Good night. We
Thank you.
will say good night.
Good
The
night, good
doggy.
night, good night. I'm going to end on a little Black Affairs with a little bit of Carmela, eh? And see you all soon. See you soon.
In Dominica. Reach a part, you go more Camela. Since morning, you go make a message. You pick me day, I a bad for hungry. Since morning, it should have feed already. Mama, when me go, the man on me day. Mama, when me go, the man on me day. Mama, when me go, the man on me day. Mama, how you mean to tell me late? What kind of woman you go make Camela? You just a make people watch you run up. But when you make police come here for me, because me know me go broke your backbone. Mama, when me go, the man on me day. Mama, when me go, the man on me day. Mama, when me go, the man on me day. Mama, how you mean to tell me late?
Thank you, guys. Have a lovely weekend. Yes. See you all next time. Peace.